All right, we'll call the town board meeting to order at 6 o'clock. All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pam, do you have a prayer?
Father, we thank you for an opportunity to gather here. Bless each person present. We pray that this meeting is successful, productive, and blessed. Holy Spirit, guide us during our discussions. Give us wisdom concerning the issues that we face. Lord, we give you the glory for what we accomplish. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, and roll call.
Supervisor Ledke?
Here.
Supervisor Milliburn?
Here.
Supervisor Olson?
Here.
Supervisor Searing? Here. Supervisor Parker is not in attendance.
Thank you. Before we go on, just as another reminder, Linwood Township is utilizing video communications as part of its meetings. By participating in this meeting, you agree that your image and or voice may be recorded and retained as part of this meeting. All right, and then we have the approval of the consent agenda. A motion to approve that. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Abstain.
All right, 3 ayes, 1 abstention. All right, approval of the regular agenda. And I want to add on a 2A. And this is going to be the fire department payroll. Any other changes or additions? All right, I get approval for the agenda, please.
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, so 2A, fire department payroll. So this is our regular payroll for 2024 November. This is going to include direct deposits 21767 to 21795 and electronic funds transfers 21796 to 21797 in the amount of $14,164.09. Can I get a motion to approve? Motion to approve? Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Carol, did you vote? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay. 3 in favor, 1 abstention. Motion passes. All right, we'll go on to number 3, planning and zoning. First one up is ordinance 219, amending chapter 30 of the Linwood Town Code regarding the regulations of cannabis businesses. And who wants to speak to that?
Yeah, so you should have before you a draft of the ordinance amending the town code specifically to address the upcoming licensure of cannabis businesses in the state. That keeps getting pushed back. We're probably not looking until June of 2025, but it's always good to get this on the books sooner rather than later. And I believe the town does have the moratorium that ends on January 1st of 2025. So it really addresses kind of 3 areas, just definitions of what these businesses are, definitions of different uses. Everything's categorized, like typically for zoning, things are categorized by use, not by license type. There are 16 different license types in the new statute. This is divided out by cultivators, manufacturers, retailers, those types of license. There's license types, but also there are some license types that can do multiple things. So if your license is going to have a specific type of use, you need to comply with those provisions. So it includes those definitions, defines some things that aren't defined by the state, like daycare, schools, those kind of things. And most of this language comes from, well, not most of it, some of it comes from the model that the Office of Cannabis Management put out. It's very similar to what I've prepared for a number of other ordinances and what other jurisdictions are using for those definitions, especially for daycares and schools and treatment facilities, those things. So then it includes provisions on where you're going to permit these uses. And most places are keeping it out of residential and keeping it in business, commercial, industrial types of districts. The town really only has the business district. So that's where I think pretty much all these are put in there. The retail lines up with the other retail as a permitted use. And I think everything else is a conditional use. So it kind of aligns with the other uses that you currently have for that specific district. And we'll have to see, because there are buffer zones and you can't zone things out through buffer zones. So we'll have to see what happens. This isn't going to be etched in stone. There are going to be things that get changed probably by the state in this upcoming session because there are still things that need to be fixed. But this draft kind of adopts the buffer zones that are permitted in the statute. I did add 2 that are a lot of other jurisdictions are doing, specifically from a 500-foot buffer from churches, and I think 500-foot buffer from another cannabis business. That isn't specifically called out in the statute, but in my opinion, and what I think what a lot of other jurisdictions are thinking, if the state is going to allow 500 feet at least for a buffer zone from some of these other uses, it logically makes sense. And in the zoning interests of the jurisdiction to have a 500-foot buffer from potentially other things. And churches and other cannabis businesses has been one that's been fairly common. So those 2 are added in there. And then there are, like in all other zoning things, there are a set of performance standards and requirements that these businesses have to comply with. There aren't a lot other than the temporary cannabis events, which is where local governments have more control. There aren't a lot in there because the state is really kind of heavily regulating this industry. If you take a look at some of the rules specifically for retail, before you even open the door, the plans you have to submit to even apply for a license, security plans, lighting plans, the structure of the building has to be a certain way, where things are stored. There's a system that's going to be in place, the computer system, where every product is going to have a number or some kind of identifier. And if you have to identify who's working there. If somebody goes into the room where the products are stored, they have to put on the computer, this person went into the room and this is what they took out. So they're really, there's going to be a lot of reliance on the state to really kind of enforce a lot of it. But you really have to have all this planning, the land acquisition, you have to have all this stuff kind of in place before you can even apply. So it's cost prohibitive. There's a lot of upfront work. Luckily for Linwood, in our conversations with Anoka County, they're going to put the cap on retail businesses as low as it can go. So you won't have, 16 retail businesses popping up in Linwood. So there's those standards. There's some things in there about kind of just generally complying with building codes, fire codes, all those things. And then for temporary cannabis events, those are the one specific thing in the statute that it specifically says needs local approval. Doesn't say in what form that comes in. I believe I have this set up in this draft as an interim use ordinance or an interim use permit. So they would have to, to get their license from the state, come here, get an interim use permit from the township. Those by statute are only limited to a cap of 4 days. You can prohibit consumption, on-site consumption, which is in this draft. I think the general purpose of these is going to be like educational and that type of stuff, and just kind of general marketing. So again, I don't know how often those are going to pop up, but there's a series of rules in there that this town can apply on specific requirements for those events. So there's that information in there as well. Unfortunately, townships have even less authority than cities do and counties do. Cities and counties can regulate, they can kind of tighten up the hours of operation for retail businesses. There's a specific time that's set out in the statute, and you can kind of narrow it a little bit to make it even shorter. It specifically says cities and counties can do that, not townships. So there's a paragraph in here that basically says, we're just going to rely on what the county is going to say. But if the county doesn't do anything, it's got to follow with what the statute is. And like I mentioned, we had a meeting with the county, Susan, the planning person here, and it went really well. This is the only township in the county. The town is delegating the authority for them to handle the registration of retail businesses. And they said a lot of the cities are as well. Just if they're small enough, they don't have the staff to do that, to do the annual compliance checks and all those kind of things. So they will have something in place to do that. And my main push in that is, if the township delegates it, we want to make sure, because if somebody submits an application for a retail business, it goes to the county. And the county is the one that's going to make the decision, does this comply with Linwood Township zoning? So my main push has been for most counties is, and I mentioned this to Anoka County, you guys at least need to consult with or try to get the approval of the township to say, okay, this is what it looks like. Does this comply? And they even said, we don't want to mess with what is happening in Linwood. We're definitely going to reach out to you. I try to get that put into county ordinances. I don't think Anoka County is kind of that far yet, but they at least, and other counties have kind of said the same thing. We don't want to make a mistake, have something go in and then get sued by the township. So that's the only thing with kind of delegating that authority. You want to make sure we have that communication with the county if something were to come in. And that does apply to retail cannabis businesses and the lower potency hemp edible, which is the THC products, which there's going to be more of those. There's no cap on those. But again, you still have to have all these kind of different protections in place as far as security and everything else and where it can be sold. So I think the thought behind that whole piece, because that old statute sunsets in March of 2025, thought I think was, once the cannabis licenses roll up, nobody's going to be getting the THC stuff because they can get the fully leaded cannabis products. If that's going to take place, I don't know, but that's kind of what the general thought is. So they'll be handling those. Anoka County will be handling those. So that's really kind of the outline of what's in the ordinance. Like I say, this is similar to what I've done for other townships. That in other cities, it's really kind of standard. Like I say, I did add some stuff just to help out a little bit. But it's likely there's going to be changes. And like I said, the OCM, I don't know if folks saw on the news, there was lawsuits. They came out with a statement last week that with a new timeline where they're not going to be issuing licenses till June. So there's still a little more space here to get ready for it, but so that's kind of where they are at on that. So that's kind of a general outline of it. It was, I believe the Planning Commission recommended approval and without any changes. So
That's a lot. That's a
it's, I've been talking about it. I can just go on and on and on, so.
Any questions for Jason on this?
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, a lot of information. So the edibles, they're different than the cannabis thing for the approval process? And that's easier to get in than the cannabis part?
It is. And they're actually, if you look at the statute, the definition of a cannabis business lists off all but two licenses, the lower potency hemp edibles retail and lower potency hemp edible manufacturer. So that they're not considered cannabis businesses. It's hemp, it's a different product. But they're not considered cannabis businesses. So that's why if you ever have plenty of time on your hands and you want to dig through the statute, when it says cannabis business and things you can do about cannabis business, that doesn't apply to lower potency hemp edibles. So that's kind of the distinction that is there. So, but you still have to get a license. Right now, they're all registered with OCM. But when that licensing window kicks in, you still have to get that license to sell it. They'll still have to go through to see if it complies with zoning, all those other kind of things.
So
So,
we'll still have to approve.
yeah, well,
Right.
it's not that the town doesn't have to approve it. There just has to be a decision that it complies with zoning. If it complies with zoning, it has to be granted. So,
So we shouldn't walk into a store anywhere in Linwood Township and see edibles unless it's come before the board.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean, now you might, if they've registered, there's a website OCM has a database, you can click on an area to show who's registered to sell them now. Cause that one was legal a year before the cannabis bill was adopted. And I have seen cities who've adopted complete prohibitions, which they could, before the cannabis bill really kicked in. And I went on the website and looked and like, oh, you have a grocery store. It was a grocery store and I think a gas station that was registered to sell them. So, and that's legal. I mean, they don't have to have a license yet. They just have to register through the OCM. That all changes once that old provisions are gone and they're all kind of lumped into the new cannabis structure. So,
Is there any distance they have to be from schools or churches or?
yeah, they have to still have to be the same buffer zones.
Okay, I'm talking about now with.
Now, no.
No. Okay. Right,
That's interesting. Good question. Yeah, Melissa, did you have any questions about the cannabis stuff? Okay. Board's pleasure. What would you like to do?
I'll make a motion that we pass resolution number 2024-25.
This is ordinance. Yeah,
Oh, it's an ordinance, I'm sorry.
219,
ordinance 219, yeah.
Where am I? I'm lost.
page 21.
I know it, doesn't it? Well, you do it, Bob.
You're doing a great job.
I can't find it,
Okay,
so.
I'll make a motion.
Uh,
We approve ordinance number 219, an ordinance amending chapter 30 of the Linwood Town Code regarding the regulation of cannabis businesses.
Thank you, Andy.
Motion's made.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Motion's made. Seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Jason.
Mhm.
Thank you for doing all the legwork for us. All right,
So, yep,
About the resolution.
now if you want to do the
Yep.
resolution.
now we can do the threat. Yep.
Okay, I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-25.
I will second.
All right, and that's a summary publication of ordinance 219. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we're on to resolution 2426, which is the interim use permit application 2415 IUP. I believe that's the cell tower. Anybody who's going to speak to that?
Jason?
Well, I can just, I can add, I did attend the planning and zoning commission meeting. where this was, where they held their public hearing. And the issue that staff flagged at the time was that the where the location of the tower did not comply with setbacks. And therefore, she was recommending denial in her staff report. I agreed and recommended that it be denied. The town can't adopt an CUP, an IUP, or anything like that. That's in violation of its ordinance. They did say they may come up with a different sketch plan or something else to comply with those setbacks. And I said, that's fine, but the application that's being reviewed at this time has this specific thing that isn't compliant with the zoning ordinance. They would need a variance to get that and they could have applied at the same time as a variance for the use at the same time, but they didn't. So that's why that one was a recommended denial.
So basically, the application didn't include all the information that should have been included in there in the original, or in the first place.
Well, it had the information, but the information violated the setbacks, and
Okay.
that you can't adopt an ordinance that, or adopt a permit that does that.
I'll give you a couple minutes if you want to come up to the microphone.
And I'll just add, I would anticipate that another application will be coming with a different layout.
Okay. I'll limit you to a couple minutes here, so. Yep. Yep. I'll just-
Living next to the tower. And I've done my research. The funny thing is about it is, this is short. I didn't get a lot of notice. They say it's on the website, but I don't go on the website. So but I made it as quick as I could. And what I'm trying to say is, for me, if they can get to where it's safe, where there's the paperwork you see here at 1,300 feet, I wouldn't even have a problem with it. Because, after that, it's cancer, because 5G is radiation. And it's, as you can see here, it's bad. It's bad stuff. And the way it sounds, my house is the closest to it. And so I wanted the board to really look at this and see if it's, we can get this out to around 1,300 feet for the residents in that area. Because honestly, this is a residential area. I applied for a permit to have a small business in my garage, and they turned me down. And then after that, he applied, Cambridge, and he got it. Well, that doesn't seem fair to me. But being he was just a plumbing parts person, I didn't think, all right, but then now we're getting to a real site where it's going to affect our residents around us, because he has a residential area. It always been until this. And so I just want it to be within the right setbacks, that it's 1,300 feet that it says. And I think I gave all of you information on your phone, about it, so we can make it safe for everybody, and then I don't have to move. I'm at the point where if this goes, I'm gonna have to leave. Because I don't want, who would? Anybody here would want to deal with this radiation? And that says minimum of 1,300 feet. So I'm passionate about it because I love Linwood, but just get me there, it'll be great.
Yeah.
But when I did try to apply for a commercial license, Linwood did tell me that, they didn't have a area for commercial. And I don't feel that having it in a residential area that turned commercial is is smart for a tower, you know, that's my feeling and that's it.
I'll
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right, thank you. All right, so we have this resolution before us. What would you guys like to do with it? Trying to find it, Carol?
For this. You just too fast, I guess.
If it's less than 15 seconds.
I wished there was a diagram where they had where the tower was gonna be placed. You know, so we could see, because this is so generic that I can't see anything, you know, where it's placed, what it is. They were talking about cutting trees down, putting it next to the swamp, putting the wood. That was one talk. And no, So-
I think that's what this plan is deficient on, so. Trying to, Carol,
I did.
what would you like to do?
I want to deny it, but I don't, I just don't know what to say.
Oh, I see.
If you just
Is
read
the resolution
just
worded as a
read- Yeah, read the resolution.
Title, the title of the.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that resolution that we accept resolution 2024-26, denying the interim use permit for the tower.
Second. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, we'll move on to resolution 2024-27. And is this back to you, Jason?
Yeah, this was also, they had a public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. This one ultimately recommended in a motion to recommend approval with conditions. The conditions are identified in the resolution, specifically approvals for, I believe, the entrance and potential turn lane, those kind of things that had to get approved by the county. As I indicated at the Planning and Zoning Commission, I have done this in the past where, you know, unlike the tower thing, there are no kind of code violations or code issues here. It's just getting these approvals for this location, for this entrance, and because they're accessing from a county road. So you condition everything on those approvals, nothing gets recorded, nothing moves forward until those approvals are achieved. And that's where the conditions are. And you can put those on interim use permits. So that was the recommending approval with these conditions.
Pleasure. I'll make a motion that we accept resolution number 2024-27 as a resolution approving the interim use permit to allow outdoor parking and storage of semi-trailers and storage containers at 21830 Viking Boulevard Northeast. Is there a second?
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
I
Pam?
can just note one change from the time it went to planning and zoning until it's coming to you, and I believe Susan included it in her staff memo. They did combine, there was 2 parcels there. They did combine both of those. So now the PID that you're approving here is the new parcel ID number. And also those parcels were zoned differently. One was zoned business, one was zoned residential. By taking it on and combining those, it takes on the higher, the existing use. So as one parcel, it remains as a business parcel.
Thank you.
So that will change on the zoning map when that gets updated. Like I say, I know she mentioned that in the staff report, but just so that you're aware of that.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed.
3, 4, 3 against, or 1 against, motion passes. All right, we are on to the Parks Report, number 4, Bob.
I did not go to the last park board meeting. I believe Supervisor Ludke was there. I believe.
Was there for a portion. There was just discussion on the rink status. We are flooding now. Weather is predicted to put a stop to that. But, and then we're working towards we got some of the items ordered for the warming house and, working towards the temporary occupancy. We got some stoops and ramp made already for one door, and we got a little bit more to do on the storage side. So working away with it, thanks to all the volunteers who've got that water on there and started making our ice base.
That's great. All right. We'll move on then to Fire Department. This is an offer of conditional employment. Come on up, Dennis.
Yeah, we're looking for approval to extend an offer of employment to Troy Miller starting on the January 1st of 2025 as a probationary firefighter.
All right.
So we only have one.
I'll make a motion that we hire Troy Miller as a
Probationary.
probationary employee.
I second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
You amended to the effective start date of Jan 1 at the going rate of the probationary. You would need that, right, Alyssa, the start date?
What is his wage gonna be?
It'd be the rate.
I
I
think
guess-
it's January 1st and you guys are changing the wages further down the line. That's what I'm. waiting
So
for.
that's what I'm saying, to make it the going rate of a probationary. It's right, I guess there's a motion in here.
Yeah, and
The
a
staff
memorandum, we just
recommendation.
put it as a.
If you just
rate
read
of a
that, then it would-
probational Firefighter. We didn't put a number.
Then it
on
would cover every ABC.
All right. Friendly motion accepted. Amendment
Sure.
include, okay, that's January 1st, you said? Yeah.
January 1st at the going rate of a probationary firefighter.
All right. Motion before us. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Great, thank you.
Motion passes. Thanks, Danny.
That's it.
That's it.
That was
Unless
easy.
there's anything
You
else
don't
you
wanna
want
talk
to
about
talk about?
anything?
Me? No.
Yeah.
All right, move on to
Okay.
old business. The ACRED update. I'd like to speak to that.
I can fill you in on that. So we had a 5-year agreement with Anoka County Regional Economic Development. And they hired someone to fill that position. When the end of our contract came up, they wanted to extend it 1 more year to decide what to do with that position. And in your packet here, what they've decided to do is, instead of charging each community in the county, it actually it becomes effective January 10th, it becomes a position over there, and they serve countywide. But they're not going to be charging each community. It became a paid position over there as opposed to all the communities supporting that position. They will continue to provide economic services to each of the municipalities. Cost shares requirement is removed. I think there is something, even though we haven't used a whole lot of their services, I think they are really a good resource for the township as we look at business zoning. And every once in a while, well, actually several times a month, I get things where businesses are looking to locate. Most times they're looking for an existing building or for utilities, that type of thing. But it really is a good resource to find out what people are looking for as the township looks at their business zoning. So just a follow up, because again, that when we talked about contracts a meeting or so ago, that was one that was coming due and we would have to do something with it. So I got this notification that it will expire on January 10th, but we won't need the memorandum of understanding. It's just going to be a service provided by the county.
All right, so if this ends on the 10th, we have to approve this then to move forward with it?
You actually don't have to do anything. There's
Okay.
no, there was a memorandum of understanding
Mhm.
in place and a requirement was to pay, I think we paid about $230 a year. That just ends.
Okay,
There won't be that agreement again.
super. Thank you. All right. Number 7, access to HR consultant and scope of work. So this was carried forward from the last meeting. So what I did was I went back and I pulled out my notes. And just to remind everybody, we were trying to find an HR consultant, just that specialized in HR, that's where their education is, to be able to use them whenever we had an HR issue that came up that we needed some help with. And so we had looked at, it's hard to find somebody that'll just do an à la carte HR service. Everybody or nearly everybody that we talk to wants to take over your payroll and every aspect of HR for your organization. So based on some recommendations from staff and supervisors, I finally reached out to Susan Tyndall. And so I found out that she would consider doing something like that. So then I set up a meeting for Mike Parker and Susan to talk, and then I was also on the phone call. And so the services that we talked about using her for was first was to review the employee handbook, just looking for HR best practices, making sure that process procedures that we had identified fit kind of what was in the industry. And she agreed to go ahead and go through the handbook, but she also commented that she had a trial that she was involved in November, so she probably wouldn't get to it until after that. That was number 1. Number 2 was to serve as a consultant for HR related issues. This one is where Mike had asked if she would be available if there was any questions that an employee might even have, that, you know, they're concerned about going and talking to one of the HR reps or a supervisor. They had a point of contact that they could go to. And her response was that she didn't get to that level of detail for HR support. She said that she would always want the HR committee to be the go-to point for everybody. And then if it was something that was beyond what they were comfortable handling or that they didn't understand how to handle, that they would then push it to her then to deal with. Let's see. And as far as a overall, 3rd was an overall consultant for like staff to be able to use. She was very adamant that she wanted all communications to go through this HR committee, because she said otherwise a lot of times the point or the context of what she was working on would get muddled if there was too many people dealing with the same thing. And 4th was Mike asked her to look into the alleged HR complaint. That was what we were working on in February and March. And he wanted, basically with that was that there wasn't anything that said that for sure that what was being dealt with by the HR committee was actually finalized and done. And so there was a concern that there might be a liability to the township if there was actually an HR complaint that was out there that wasn't concluded. And so in talking to her, we found out that as an employment consultant, that she wasn't restricted like to the open meeting law. So supervisors didn't, like, two supervisors were already involved in that, so none of the other three of us could be. So that's what's been brought up several times. She then could have actually have taken that role and just made sure that there was nothing outstanding. There was nothing outstanding, that's what she reported back, done, move on. If there was something, then she would have had to take the lead on trying to get some resolution to it. So, and of course, each one of these, this was October 16th. She went into her trial stuff, and I do have a call into her to set up a meeting to kind of figure out where things are at. I did talk to her staff, and she's working and everything. It's just that she's tied up at this point. So I'm just waiting to hear something back from her to set up another appointment to see if, I mean, I get that she's an attorney, she's extremely busy and stuff, but I don't know, we just got to try to figure out if there's a way that we can make a working relationship here.
But that doesn't take care of the problem. What was asked was that there was a contact outside of this board for staff. And you just got done saying that's not gonna be her. And you've known that since October. And there's been all these issues. And how are we gonna resolve this? I mean, staff have to have somewhere to go. They can't come to Mike Parker right now is HR. I mean, I know you think you are, but Mike Parker's still on the board and he's HR. And if it's a problem to go to him or anybody else on this board, where are they gonna go?
Well, if you look at the employee handbook, it says that you can bring it to the HR committee, you can bring it to a supervisor, and you can also bring it to the town
Who's the
attorney.
committee?
Well, I'm saying, okay, so there's no committee. So you go to number 2, which is a supervisor. You can go to a supervisor. If you're not comfortable going to a supervisor, it says that you go to the town attorney. So if you look at the employee handbook and you go through, if you feel like you're being harassed or there's any issues like that, there is the steps in which you follow. So there's already an avenue that is identified. If that doesn't work, then we have to revisit the employee handbook. Susan wasn't here before and it worked. However it worked when she wasn't here. Employee handbook doesn't say go to Susan. Employee handbook still has those steps.
No, but they were led to believe that they could go to Susan.
Well, that was the hope. That was the hope. And part of the mix up in that too is that the first consultant that we talked to was not an attorney. She was an actual, HR person that worked in HR for companies. She was educated in it. She was more of the hands-on. I think when you're talking about an attorney that is a trial attorney and stuff, she probably doesn't have time to deal with the individual concerns or complaints of an employee.
The other person did not have an HR degree and has never worked in a township. That's why we moved to Susan.
I didn't argue it. I didn't argue that, Carol. And her LinkedIn account does show that she does have that background, but that's now passed. That's now passed. So
We still need to resolve this issue of whether that's going to be Jason's company or whether that's going to be somebody else. The employees still need somebody to reach out to if they need.
And like I said, all I can do is follow up with Susan. This might not work. This relationship may not work. If she's that busy and she can't fulfill what we need, then we need to look someplace else or figure out another path.
So is that guy sitting right there who we trust with everything? Does he have the talent to do these 4 things you just rattled off?
I can't speak for Jason.
I mean, he's got a gopher shirt on. He must know something.
No, I can. I've of the two of us at our firm, I'm the employment law person. And that's why I was helping you guys out with the handbook. And I'm not a trial lawyer. I'm not as busy as I certainly was 6 months ago. So it certainly are things I can handle. And like John was saying, if there's no more committee or Mike is unable to do it, you can talk to a supervisor. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you can come to me. And, I'll deal with it and, make a recommendation to the board or the employee or whoever else. So, yeah, I can.
And that's pretty much how it's been as long as I've been here, and I believe about as long as anybody's been on this board. I mean, we've always had HR, we've always had attorneys who did their job, and we never really had an issue. So I trust Jason more than this Susan, who wouldn't even take my phone calls. And I tried to call her, and it took 4 days to even get a voicemail from her. So I don't know, I trust Jason doing this thing. I just don't know why we gotta start chasing more attorneys for more issues. Because I know Jason's gone through the handbook, but now we're giving the handbook to somebody else to go through, and that seems a little ridiculous, but I'd rather have Jason's outfit do this. And the HR thing, that's gonna come up in January.
Mhm.
It's gonna come up in January again, because I know the last two HR people were told they didn't know what they were doing, so they got removed. And now other people are doing it, so I don't know. I'd just rather have Jason's group do it, but if we gotta decide that in January, when we decide everything, well, then we wait till January.
Yeah, agreed. All right. No other questions on that? May not be what you wanted to hear, but it is what it is. I just explained it. I mean, that's. All right, number 8, summaries of employee review held. Sorry. Pam, did you have something left?
I did, yeah. It's very disheartening because that's exactly what was told to at several meetings. And even standing in my office, told that this would be a resource for the employees. So it's unfortunate that even the people that were researching it apparently didn't understand or didn't bring it back to the board and to staff an understanding of it. So I am hoping that moving forward, it can be made a little clearer because employees have been left to fend for ourselves. And again, I mean, we were provided phone numbers and emails for this person and there's no response. And like I say, it's very disappointing as an employee that somebody decides that we're going to go hire this person and yet it's not even fleshed out. I had asked for a scope of work. I mean, and the explanation was they're an attorney, they don't give you a scope of work. But I think even just among the board, if you could, what is it that you're trying to accomplish and define that? So when you go look for someone and maybe a few people understood what they were looking for, but as an employee, it's been very, very confusing and frustrating to be sold this bill of goods and then find out that's why she's not answering us. So like I say, just moving forward, if the board could be a little more open on what it is that you're looking for and be able to define that. So it's memorialized in the minutes, but then also, again, so there's a scope. My question is how would you know to pay someone when there's not a defined scope of work? And I know it was explained to me, they're attorneys, they don't have to do scopes of work, but it's like, well, how do you even know that they've met the goal that you set for them?
Mhm.
Like I say, if that could be fleshed out more, I think there would be less frustration. Thank you.
Well, like I said, I'm waiting for a phone call back too. So it's, I don't have, the bat phone to get a hold of her either. So. All right, thank you. Number 8, summary of employee reviews. All right, so, on Thursday, December 12th, 3 employees, their evaluations were conducted between 2 and 5 PM by the Board of Supervisors. Each evaluation consisted of reviewing performances for the past 12 months, discussing the goals that were established last fall and setting new goals for the next 12 months. There are 2 more evaluations that need to be rescheduled and a public notice will be posted prior to that closed meeting in accordance to the statute. All right, any questions on that? All right, number 9, process for filling supervisory seat B vacancy. As long as you're here, Jason, would you want to summarize that? Otherwise, I can read from your email.
Yeah, no problem. And seat B is Mike's.
Yes.
So Mike has not formally resigned. He did submit a letter saying that he will be out of the township and will not be accepting the position, which that term begins on January 6th. That isn't a resignation. And unfortunately, I've seen in situations where people will send a letter like that and then rescind that letter, and then it creates chaos. So my recommendation is that doesn't automatically create a vacancy. The vacancy will be created within 10 days after January 6th if he hasn't taken the oath of office. So if that happens, so if you're looking at January 16th, and I think calendar wise, we'd be looking at the second meeting in January. You would have before you a resolution to declare a vacancy because he hasn't taken the oath of office. He's been deemed to have abandoned that. And then you have to go through your standard kind of appointment process to fill that position. The statute is pretty clear. It says you shall appoint somebody to fill that position. Then that seat will be up at the next kind of general election, which would be November of 2026. And then that person elected at that time would fill out the remaining 2 years on that term. If for some reason the board or the nomination committee is unable to appoint somebody, then you have the authority, you don't have to, but you have the authority to call a special election. So as a matter of right away, you don't have the authority to just call a special election. It has to be declared a vacancy. If they don't take that oath of office, you appoint to fill that position, and then that seat is on the ballot in 2026. So that would be the process going forward. Whatever your process has been for appointing vacancies, just kind of plan on, I assume Mike isn't going to rescind that letter, but I've seen it happen. So you just have in place a plan that on that second meeting, we'll adopt that resolution. There's a vacancy. We're going to start our appointment process and then, kind of move through that as quickly as you can to fill that seat.
Excellent. Questions? Thank you. Thanks for the explanation, Jason. Yeah.
So would there be anything wrong with having that conversation now? So that's in place of the board or is that just taboo? Don't talk about it until you do the resolution. But I guess my question is does the board want to use the process we used the last time? It was advertising, it was interviews.
That'd be my preference. The same. Yeah. You're not going to be here. You don't care, do you?
Maybe one of them wants.
I think that process worked really good the last time. So
I'm just thinking that way, if you do this the second meeting in January, then you're ready to roll into advertising and
Yeah.
staff can have that all ready.
yeah, by the 28th. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. New business, number 10, senior center, additional exercise classes. And who would like to speak to this?
She sent
Me?
it to you.
Okay. Okay, so Sarah's asking for a change in classes. This would be on Tuesdays. It says basically if there's no scheduling conflicts, then they'll use the facility. If any conflicts arise, then they would skip that day. So they're not pushing anything out of the way. It's using it as it's available on those Tuesdays. And so I was gonna say, no.
Does that mean we would have to set up the building, open the door? They do it all.
Self-sustaining.
All right. So I'd make a motion that we allow the senior center usage on Tuesdays for this MWF schedule.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Or yeah, Monday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, it's
gonna Okay.
change Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
I say that's not how I read it. Okay. All right, I accept your amendment. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Just clarification of, so does the coordinator not have the schedule, or what would be the, I guess I would assume they'd be able to coordinate the use and the calendar of the room. This is just the first time something since I've been on come before.
Tuesdays is
Oh.
normally extraordinary, so like if there's an election. So it's something that we would know in advance that they wouldn't be able to use the room.
I understand that. I guess why, why is this coming to the board? I guess I just assume the calendar, I mean, there's other events and things that happen that they just, is the authority not there, or?
You wanted the board to be aware of
Transparency.
what she's doing.
I'm good for it, but yeah, I'm sure that they can manage the schedule and go, so.
Sure. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. All right, number 11, Cemetery Committee Letter of Interest.
Interest from a lady named Terry Myers. And she would like to be on the cemetery committee. John Carlson resigned. And I'll make a motion that we accept Terry Myers to become a member of the cemetery committee.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Just, do we advertise? I guess, where this one came in before we talked about it at the last meeting, I guess.
It came in before we talked about it.
You okay with that, Andy?
Yeah, I just thought the process was what we talked about last time, so. And I know I've talked on these committee things before, trying to get something in place.
So then I'm confused that at the last meeting, the board decided to advertise and then any applications we got would come back to the board at the next meeting.
Well, I guess
missing
then
here?
that's the confusion then, because this one was there. And there was confusion that we don't advertise unless instructed, so I'm just, again, just the timing of the process is all.
This came in, but the board did not address it. It wasn't in your meeting packets to address it. And we talked about the process would be that we wouldn't have to come and ask for board permission, that staff could, if there's an opening, the board accepts the resignation, staff could go ahead and advertise
The vacancy.
and then bring it to the board at the next meeting. So what am I missing here? I just want to make sure that this is the way you want this to go.
So, yeah, the advertisement, are we advertising for any positions right now?
Yes, yes.
And then I guess that's the question, because then this one was already held beforehand. And then it comes in and gets in, and then someone is applying in a window that hasn't, it's just making sure that if there's a vacancy, it goes out right away for all at a certain, because we talked what you mentioned last time, a meeting or two,
For,
just to allow people to apply. So,
but if it was already there, it was already there.
But the board at the last meeting said, bring it to the next meeting. It.
So what do you?
What
I
do you
guess I
want
don't-
me to do? I mean, seriously, do you want it to be I asked that, how long do you want to advertise? If you get one, bring it to the next board meeting. That was the words. I can find it in minutes, but if it's changing, just let me know. I mean, we can,
And then the advertisement comes down after the board accepts the candidate. Is that right?
yes.
Yeah, that's what I
Yes, as
thought.
long, yeah. when
As soon as there's a
no opening, we would
vacancy,
take-
you post it.
Yep,
As soon as there's letter of interest, comes before the board. As soon as the board accepts a person onto a committee, you pull the advertising.
right.
That's
That
what
was
I
my
thought I heard
understanding.
before.
Okay, okay.
So where
I-
does Terry Meyer fit in this?
I don't know if she's disqualified because her
No, I'm not
application
just,
came
I'm
in.
just, because this is, I mean, like I said, we had 2 meetings before this came to us, so that's all just, again, the process, and that's, at the end of the day, we get this policy next year, and we hit it as one of those list of things we talked about at the staff one and document it, because if we're still talking about it, it's obviously not clear.
I think the question that's being asked is that it was submitted on November 22nd. I think that's what the question is.
We have
Oh.
any other candidates?
All right. All right. Who seconded it? Was it you, Bob? All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And one opposed. 3, 4, 1 against. Andy. Motion passes. All right, number 12, employee wage reviews. And who
I
asked for this?
Because it's time to do it. And it says everybody looked at this.
Hmm. Yeah, I've looked at it.
Okay, we're gonna do employee, review, wage reviews right now, or gonna give the staff a raise?
We normally do it the last meeting of the year.
We usually do it before then.
Suppose we do it as soon as Social Security comes out with their.
Yeah, but you really don't wanna use social security, cause last year
I just
you,
know we have in the past. That's the
right, but
reason I
last
brought
year
it up.
you wouldn't. Cause it was too high. So I think you should be more independent than that. If you look at the other, St. Francis, Oak Grove, Zimmerman, all of the other places, will give you some idea what they're doing. It's hard to look at townships because some of them are so little, they don't have any staff, and ones that are bigger than, I mean, there's White Bear, but we're up, right up at the top.
So are these individually or is this across the board?
It has been up till now individual.
Can it be? I don't know, but the employee handbook is kind of, I read it just before I came over here and it doesn't specifically state it very clear one way or the other. It just says that your evaluation, can be used to determine what your raise is. But last year I sat through here and it was kind of like it was more across the board.
It's always been across the board. That doesn't mean it has to be,
Okay.
but that is the way it's been done.
And question for Jason. So I was going to send you the state statute that we had in one of our meetings, but we still have 2 outstanding performance reviews, evaluations that we haven't done. And it doesn't sound like just posting and conflicts that with the holidays, we're going to be able to do them until into January. Do you have a suggestion on how we would handle this then?
Well, I don't know the specifics in the handbook, but if there are specifics on how, if there's COLA raises or whatever else that's in the handbook, I would kind of just follow the policy in the handbook. And if it does say, if you're supposed to do this by Jan 1, we're gonna have to stick to it, kind of doing across the board thing at this point. But if the policy does say you can individualize it, you can individualize it too, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I don't think it's ever had anything to do with the performance appraisals. It's just been a COLA raise and the,
That was my one question, because it says performance in here on the sheet.
Because I've been told that it should be called performance, and then I've been told it should be called cost of living. I've been told many things. There's not a policy on what it should be called, so. That's why it's called both.
So I just remember last year it was told it wasn't performance based. That's why we had to do them. And then it was actually a recess meeting that carried over into last year, into the new year. So it happened in January last year, because then you had everything done.
I know I had it by the first payroll because I didn't have to retroact people's wages. back
And
to
what,
the first of the year.
what meeting did we recess then and came back? Because this was talking about all these items. Or we finalized some of them, we didn't do half of them.
Voted in one of the handbook meetings to change the length of service effective January 1st, 2025.
That's easy. That's the easiest part. I guess the big question is what do we want to do for, Social Security or COLA? Last year we did, what I just see, 3.5. 3.2 last year. What do we want to do this year? Seems like the average is about 3 point. I'm not a mathematician, I ain't gonna guess. 3-ish.
well, I can make a motion that we give our employees a 3.2, 3.3. I'll make it 3.4. Raise along with the length of service.
And is that the people who are the same ones we did last year? Is that just the top group on your scale there? Shy, the cemetery coordinator and summer park maintenance? And deputy treasurer?
It would be the top, Craig gets, he could get the raise, but he gets, he doesn't get hourly.
Yeah.
He gets a yearly.
Yep.
What last year we gave him the raise the same as everybody else because we realized that if he were to leave, we're not gonna be able to replace him at what we pay him annually. So we need to keep up giving him an increase.
And that was 3.4? You said?
Mhm.
Do you want to give everybody on the top 3.5? I'm just trying to figure out this motion. You're not doing the deputy treasurer, you are doing the cemetery coordinator, and you're not doing summer maintenance.
Add them in.
It's your motion.
It might be by motion, but I'm just following who's here.
I will second the motion to go 3.4% plus length of service on clerk, administrator, deputy clerk, treasurer, zoning, public works 1 and 2, recycling coordinator, recycling assistant, senior center coordinator, webmaster, cemetery, plow driver on call, and plow driver on call number 2, we'll say.
Did you include the deputy clerk?
Yep. Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. That's what I'm seconding.
All right, so that's that top half.
Yep.
Are you gonna deal with the bottom half separately or,
Well, if we can just do the top, so let's just get the top done first.
all right, there's a motion been made for a 3.4% increase plus the length of service increase for the positions that Bob just listed. It's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Yes, there is over here.
I think there's a correction here. One of the on-call plow drivers is 2709, but I don't think that employee is here anymore. I just want to be clear that I know there's a name there,
Yep, sorry.
but,
The first on-call plow driver is at a rate of $20 an hour.
Oh. And not 2709?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion?
Just, and just for point of clarity, it might have been in the consensus meeting because it was reconvened at January 11th when we came back into the rest of the handbook stuff. So some of this, because there was no any finalization. So I think we went into last year with it based on the minutes. I'd just like to see something in regards to this needs to get cleaned up, obviously, with what the handbook says. And going at percentage of understanding budget impacts to with 2025.
So I sent out an email to everybody December 11th asking for feedback on any of this. And then I had to respond back a week and a half later because nobody had responded to me. So at what point wouldn't you address your questions when I'm asking?
Oh, this is not a question. I mean, because they're also talking with the board to make sure of what we know. I understand what you had and discussed with what that is. But I'm speaking more in terms of what you just said too. Is it performance? Is it COLA? What is the word? We fix the word for all of us. I can't fix it with one employee. To get it squared away to where that way there, it's just clear for all to move forward.
Right there.
Yes.
Okay, so it is not, it is a 2025 wage review, not how great they are. If that's what I'm reading, that comes out of the handbook.
And then your
No, that's the header.
Just say
for
that's not-
clarification.
So it says
word
like
for
the
word.
service. Where does it say
I
how
agree.
great they are?
It doesn't.
Doesn't.
Okay.
That's, I think that's because I'm struggling with this. That's why I'm sitting here quiet. I'm hoping that something comes to light for me, but I'm struggling with this because I don't know that I'm comfortable with how this works. But to Jason's point, if the handbook says it one way, we have to follow that this year. But this is where I think this is a section of the handbook that we need Jason's help in going through and dissecting it down. We've had people say that last year we talked about performance increases versus step increases versus, what we have right now. And we can't wait until November of next year to dive into this. We got to dive into this like January, as far as I'm concerned. This needs to be way more clear.
And that was the same conversation that was had last year at this time.
Mhm.
And that's why I tried to address it, asking if anybody had addressed what was supposed to be addressed over a year ago.
Yep.
And as far as you wanted to know the impact on the 2025 budget, I had provided that information to you on December 11th of what was budgeted for wage increases.
I understand what that is, but in terms of making sure that the board knows then, so we just don't have a $2 random raise applies in that we don't actually go back to, is what I'm speaking to. Because that has happened. And that impacts it all.
Put that on your list, Jason.
I got a list of things going.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion on the table for 3.4% increase plus the length of service. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Aye. All opposed, motion passes. All right. Now, that got us down to the summer park maintenance assistant. We have fire department, and we also have the different committees.
When was the last time firefighters got a raise?
Wasn't last year.
2 years ago.
Did they get a raise
My-
on?
No, so last year they were gonna give the fire chief a raise and he
He
declined.
declined it, yep.
So he's at the same rate as
Did they get a pension bump last year?
the year before, 2023, they got a.
Okay.
I'm new to this, so I gotta ask the question. Is there, I don't understand the pension bump, and did a regular staff get a pension bump, or is that something unique? I don't understand how that works.
Don't get it.
I'll let either him
Okay.
talk about it. I'll let him talk about it.
We can't drag them up.
Well, if you're trying to get an explanation on the pension bump.
I feel like that needs to come at a separate meeting or it needs to be asked individually and how that works.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, if we skipped them last year, I think we should, not skip them this year.
Hey, what's your motion?
I would maybe encourage you to understand that we can wait on the fire department because they're not, their payroll isn't coming sooner than staff. So if you want to gather information on how that all works, just so you're an understanding of where
Mhm.
you're at before a motion is made.
Okay.
Maybe.
So if we bring this back to the first, I know the first meeting in January is a busy one, but if we bring this back, then, it's not gonna affect
It won't
a
affect
pay
the
increase. Okay. I'm fine with if,
That way I get you some information that.
perfect. Then I'd say let's table the fire department, employees then to the first meeting in January. Okay. What about, the different committees?
Not change different committees from planning and zoning all the way down to road foreman.
All right, motion's been made. I'll second it. Motion's been made and second. Any other conversation? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
3 ayes, 1 abstention. Motion passes.
Make a motion to leave the town board chair at 400, leave the town board supervisors at 325.
I'll second that. Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
The meeting thing still, I mean, that's where it needs to get shaken out in my opinion.
Yeah, we still have a problem with, if I remember
We
right.
always will. We will always have a problem.
Well,
We had a guy who quit and he still gets paid. He just flat out said, I quit. I'm not coming here anymore. And he still gets paid. So we got spat in the face and he still gets paid. I think that's awesome.
well, I know, but why don't you want to figure it out so that doesn't happen?
It's,
When you see other.
I take
communities-
27 different attorneys to figure that one out. We've tried for years to figure it out. Years to figure it out.
We figured it out for the regular supervisors. We just didn't figure it out for the chair. The chair is the only one that's an issue. He gets $400 whether he comes or not. Plus his extra meetings.
So I just want to compartmentalize this in my head. So right now we're talking about a wage increase this year. That's what's before us. I agree that we need to bring back that discussion about supervisor compensation and clear that up. Because I agree. I think a person gets paid for what they do. They don't just get it. So, but that's a totally different
Well, I
topic.
suggest that you hold this one until you fix it. That you don't give a supervisor raise until you have this fixed.
Right, and that's what Bob's motion was that I seconded is nothing changes right now. It stays exactly the way it
Oh, I
was.
thought
and
he
then-
was working on the plow driver to
Nope.
the,
We're on
Road
town board
foreman,
chair and
okay.
supervisor.
Just that. All right, any other questions, discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes unanimously.
So before I say anything about judging, can I ask the clerk if you know where we rank? I think we ask you this every single year, where we rank. High, low, medium with these numbers,
Right in there.
Okay.
There's some that pay more, but they don't pay meals. There's some that pay less. Oh, I think I think the election judges are fair.
All right. So what do we want to do with the judges?
Make a motion to give 50-cent raises to the head election judge, assistant head election, technology, trainer, and election judges.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded. Discussion.
They do a lot.
So
For the
here-
love of God, they do.
here's my question. And I don't know if you want to rescind your motions or not, but your wife is one of these, isn't she?
I know, that's why I thought about abstaining when it comes time to vote that, so maybe it was a bad motion for me to.
I
make.
just-
I'm gonna
yeah, I
rescind
just-
My motion.
You rescinding yours, Carol?
Well, I'm rescinding my second. I
Yes.
guess I haven't got a choice.
You don't
All
have a
right.
choice.
Yeah, we don't want to go down that path. All right, do you have something to say? Oh, okay, you were just, okay. Thought you were getting ahead of steam. So, all right. Anybody else want to take action on this?
I guess I do have something to say.
Sure.
So keep in mind, we most likely will not have an election in 2025.
Good
It
point.
might be something you may want to look at for 2026 when you're doing the wage reviews going into 2026, but I don't anticipate an election.
Is there no
in
trainings or
25.
anything?
No,
Right.
Okay, no, that helps. Thank you. I'll make a motion that we leave all the judges' wages the way they are.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion about it? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nobody's opposed. Motion passes. All right. Anything else with the employee wage reviews? Okay, we're moving on to 13. Laptop replacement quote.
Last week or the week before, we had a laptop go down. Today, as we were setting up again, we had another laptop go down. So, at the cost of the laptops and the quotes that they're coming in at, I did reach out to them again, just asking, is there a different way? Because we use these laptops maybe 5 times a month. And at the rate that they're going down and the cost of them, I mean, it's not really cost effective. So I will leave it up to the board if you want to get another laptop coming. But we do have enough in order for planning and zoning for the following upcoming meeting, because I think we have a couple members absent. But I'm looking at bringing you guys more options to this versus spending this amount of money on a laptop.
Is it easier to spend 25's money than 24's money? Because we probably don't have any money in 24.
You're out of time to spend 24's money,
that's
sorry.
that Ship sail, but we kind of thought we get an inventory and get the dates and try and square up, because like you said, like we talked, what we need here, we just need a previewing thing. We're looking at a PDF here. We're not computing as much in terms of what these viewers up here need to be. And then how we get a recycle program, or, staffs are making sure theirs are at the top. And then maybe they recycle into these viewing computers or something, and not, because that cost of, like you said, there was one, even before that one, there was one that just went down within a couple months ago. So it's like they're all hidden.
And now what's failing is the hard drive, right?
Yep.
Did we ever find out what it would cost to just have them put a hard drive in here? They're gonna charge us $1,500 for putting a $40 hard drive in it.
the diagnosis to see if it was the hard drive or the motherboard. They said by the time you do the diagnostics and then replace it, you're getting close to.
And we're out of warranty on it. What would like to do here? How critical is it to get it replaced right now? What if we waited a couple weeks or a month?
Yeah, we could wait till we get some answers back at least, just some more options and where we're sitting with it.
Okay,
At
perfect.
least
I don't know if TR Computers does, but
I don't know.
yes.
Here's the question.
Yeah, usually it's through manufacturers though.
You bring that option back to the board?
Sure.
Right.
If I'm gonna stop in St. Michael tomorrow and look at a plow truck,
Good question.
we might as well try leasing that.
All right, so let's table this then until we get more information back from Alyssa. All right. Do our reports, treasure report, Alyssa.
I need a more solid motion on the Minnesota PEEP. In the past, the motion has been that we are going with the plan that, so in the past, it's been that we choose the plan that the township is paying for, and that if they choose a higher plan, that money will be coming out of their paychecks. If we choose the lower plan, which is an HSA option, that the remainder balance above that to the plan that we're paying would goes into the employee's HSA. So I would like to request a motion of, if an employee chooses the Advantage HSA option, the amount over the premium of the advanced, I'm losing it. Of the Advantage High option will be paid into the employee's HSA account.
Okay.
Because that wasn't formally in the motion.
Anybody like to make that motion? Can you repeat it, Bob?
No, not gonna repeat what you said. I'll let you know.
I'll move. You just said. You already have it written down.
If an employee chooses the Advantage HSA option, the amount over the premium of the Advantage High option that the township pays in 2025 will be deposited into the employee's HSA account.
Thank you.
That's a little cleaner than what I said,
So moved.
so.
Yep, so moved. All right. thanks, Bob.
Second.
All right, motions are made and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right,
Uh,
motion passes.
We received our second levy payments after the reconcile that was in the books there. It was short. So each fund, you'll notice if you're watching the first levy disbursement versus the second levy disbursement that just came through, that second levy disbursement is going to be short roughly about 10.3%. I'm hoping that the final payment that we get for the levy payments will cover that, but I'm not going to hold my breath. So just if anybody's asking why they didn't get any of their levy payment or the full amount of their levy payments, because we didn't get it. So I'm hoping to make that work with the final payment in January to get them funds back their 10.3% that I could not disperse. So just keeping you guys up on the shortage there. And the senior community party was a success, even though it was snowing. Probably about half the people as we had the year prior, but there's 34 people in attendance. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Excellent. All right, thank you. Pam?
The township received a few Christmas cards. They're posted up there. I just wanted to share this one with the board. It's from Rum River Consultants, our building inspection company. They say thank you for the opportunity for Rum River to deliver exceptional building code consulting services to the community of Linwood while fostering lasting, trusted relationships through integrity, collaboration, and innovation. In honor of our partnership, we have provided a donation to North Anoka County Emergency Food Shelf in your staff's honor. May all be blessed now and in the coming year. That's from Rum River.
Oh, very, very nice.
And then to kind of circle back on at the last meeting, I was instructed to send the streaming policy to the attorney, and it came back with a few questions that the board is going to probably want to discuss. So I'm just wondering. So what happened is the original was adopted back in March, and then there was some changes made on October 8th, and it came to the board and the board approved it, but the plan was that it should go for attorney's recommendation. So I'm just wondering, are we under are we under this new policy, even though there's some language that needs to be discussed by the board? Do you want to stay with that amended one that was amended October 22nd? Or revert back to the other one?
Yeah, to me, the motion was made and it was accepted, so we're under that one right now, but in reviewing the recommendations, I think we should look at revising that again, taking this into consideration, then bring it back to the board for approval at that point. That's how I would see it.
So we stay under the one that the board adopted.
Yep, until we
Okay.
can approve another one. Want to vote on whether we keep what we already voted on?
Because you're just one person. You just made a decision for the entire.
Oh, no.
No.
No, the
I
board
didn't
made a
understand that at
decision.
all.
It's already been voted on.
I know, but she asked you a question if you wanted to go back to the original one or this one.
So the question I was asked is whether we're going to follow the one that the board approved in October by a motion, or if we're gonna go back to something that now circumvents the motion from October. Can you do that, Jason?
No, that isn't, I missed something, or you're missing something. One of us is.
I heard what he heard.
I mean, the motion was made and it was approved, the board approved it, so we're under that revised one. It doesn't say that we can't take now the attorney's comments and revise the amended one to amend it a second time, taking this into consideration, bring it back before the board, so all 5 or 4 supervisors get to vote on it. I didn't just make a decision unilaterally, so I hope that's not how you took that. But yeah, so if you want, Pam, I can get with you, or we can beat through the revision, or I can make a proposal and bring it back to.
I think it's a
Okay.
discussion for the board to have and figure out from there where you want to go. But again, just to kind of bring it, it's a follow-up from the last meeting, just to get it on the radar for an upcoming meeting to address it. And then I do have a question then. I guess I'd just like some clarification. I know there was a discussion about there's overlaps with several people contacting the attorney about maybe the same topic. And I just want to be clear on that. I know you said something and I don't remember how you said it of it.
Yeah.
If it's just the chairperson that talks to the attorney, or you made some reference to staff kin if they're, can you just go over that again like I said, it's not, you walked
Yeah,
away
yeah.
and it was like, so
No, that's fine. So when Jason and I talked about that relationship, Jason and Troy said that they only want to have one of their attorneys be the point person for Linwood. And then in our conversation, Jason said typically townships would have just the chairperson that would communicate with the attorney. Unless there's some special circumstance that comes up and somebody else is appointed to work with them on a particular topic. I countered kind of that with an idea of, in order to keep the chairperson in sync with what's going on and that we don't have 3 people talking to the attorney about the same topic and paying triple, is not to restrict staff and become a bottleneck, but allow staff to continue to communicate, but CC the chairperson on the communication. So that way you still have a single point of contact on that side and you have a single point of contact on this side that understands what's going on. And, but it doesn't restrict you from getting a question answered. Because if I'm on vacation, I don't want you waiting 2 weeks to get an answer back from Jason or Alyssa or anybody else. That's what I tried to explain, if that makes more sense.
that does help.
And does that work on your side then, Jason?
Yeah, like I said, it just isn't efficient if there's, for the town, expense wise, is to have people going to 2 different attorneys. And it just clarifies so there aren't any miscommunications, anything else. Everything's very clear. And the reason why it's usually the chair is then it's, more of a perspective of the board as opposed to anybody else. And the board's the one that makes most of the decisions. So, but like John said, it shouldn't prevent, and you have, like we talked about earlier today, if there's an employee that has an issue, they can reach out to me directly. It shouldn't prevent that, but just CC John so that he knows. And then, if the board says, Pam, you need to contact the attorney about this, just make sure he's CC'd and everything's fine. Just so there's one channel coming to me and I don't get separate ones, or I get one and Troy gets one, that kind of thing. So.
But if you're gonna use him for HR, then that probably changes things a bit. Because if an employee can't come to you, they shouldn't have to CC you either.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
That's fair.
And actually the handbook doesn't say that you have to CC somebody if you go directly to the town attorney.
The other person I was worried about, or when I heard that, is Susan. I mean, she must reach out to you.
Well, she has specifically for the cannabis stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, I haven't had too much communication with her, but for the cannabis stuff specifically, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anything else, Pam?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, Carol?
Yes, I have something to say, I'd like to say. I'd like to thank some people. I'd like to start by thanking Tom, who's been here for all the meetings of every meeting for 12 years. And some, and he's helped me a great deal. So I'd like to thank him. I would really like to thank the staff, all of the staff, but especially the office staff and the media staff. They have been such great help and answered questions, and I am probably the one person that asked the most questions of the staff, and they've been really good about giving me the answers and finding out information and helping me out. And as far as I'm concerned, they have done a wonderful job for the township. They have the township's best interest at heart. Whether the township knows it or not, that's the truth. And I just can't say enough nice things about them. I really can't. The other committee I'd like to thank is Planning and Zoning. I've been doing that for a while. And they're a great committee to work with. I hope that whoever works with them next can will enjoy it as much as I have, I guess. So I would also hope with all my heart that this board can straighten out their issues and the issues with staff, because I really can't tell you how much I think you would miss this staff if they were gone. So I really hope that you can work that out. That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you, Carol. Bob?
How do you follow up that? That is pretty, I'm gonna talk about that in a second. Park interviews. I've got a hold of one person. He's the only one I've got a hold of. I've left voicemails for 4 others. I have not got any answers from the other 4 who I've contacted. When I do get somebody lined up who wants to do interviews with me. John, is that something you want to do? Andy, something you want to do? Because it shouldn't be done with one person, and it should be, the board should know who I'm having do it. I mean, I would like to do it, but if you don't want me to do it, I don't care. I won't do it either, but I just gotta get them set up, and I want to do it with one other person.
I should, because ultimately I think they fall into the Public Works.
Okay, makes sense. How about your maintenance interviews? Maintenance, Public Works interviews.
That's all getting turned over to Supervisor Ledke.
Okay, you doing that alone?
Nope, I just got an email.
Okay, so that'll have to get board approval when that comes, yes or no?
Board approval for what, him doing
Gonna
it?
do the interviews. That's why I'm
Oh.
bringing it up. Who's gonna do the park interviews? I just want to make sure the whole board's online with who's doing interviews. So if you and I are gonna do interviews, then the whole board agrees we're gonna do interviews, but we need to know who's gonna do them with Supervisor Ludke. And if he wants me to help, I'm more than happy to help him out if he needs help with doing interviews, because I know you can't, but.
Right.
So that's good. Carol, it has been a pleasure. It started off rough. You were a pain in my, yep,
And you deserved it.
I did deserve it. Tom does deserve a lot of thanks for bringing this woman to this meeting every time. She has done more for this township in 12 years than a lot of people, probably more than I've done in 12 years. The one thing that impresses me about Carol Searing the most is you never jumped on anybody's train. If somebody got pissed off about a chicken or their mailbox or this, you never jumped on the train and said, oh, now I'm on your side. And people do that. You have supported this community for 12 years and never looked any other way than at the community you served. All you cared about was the community, and I cannot thank you enough for doing that.
Thank you.
And what you have done for the group of people that we pay to run this township, I can't thank you enough for doing that.
Thank you.
Thomas, thanks for bringing her every time. Every time, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work dragging such an angel around. Such an angel.
Sitting through hours and hours of meetings.
I like the meetings where Tom, you can't be here anymore, get out. Okay. But thank you very much. Carol Searing, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Bob. Andy?
Reuse building. They finished electrical on Monday. So we submitted the final numbers to the county, just shy of 60K. So we were able to get some extra bump with some other purchases in there that Alyssa submitted. So we're just coming back next year with the final to do the outside stuff. So that was really good news to get that on Monday. So and they were, it's bright in there. So now we're gonna start moving, and they got the winter to start assembling shelving and kind of prepping stuff. So, and then he said I'd be working through the rest of the buildings with the building official for official occupancy, because we got a deadline of a Parks and Recreation party in January. So, and yes, thank you, Carol. A dozen years is quite a commitment to the community. So thank you for all you've done. It's definitely not lost on anyone, especially sitting in this seat when you get the hours and everything and the things you don't know that you have to deal with. So thank you.
Thanks, Andy. I don't have anything business wise, but I'm gonna share their sentiment also, is I only got to work with you for almost 2 years. I really appreciated our brother-sister relationship because we were able to very much challenge each other along the way. And I appreciate the honesty, and I can guarantee you I will not be sitting here in 12 years. I will not do 12 years, I guarantee it. So put that in the records. And so 12 years of service is really commendable. So thanks for everything you've done. All right, is there anything else to come before the board? Hearing none.
Should only go to one person.
I never have. I'm not gonna start by doing it tonight.
You gotta put it in the record.
Got to do it.
No, I don't. I haven't done it in 12 years.
We're gonna be here for a lot
I
of
gotta
time
work
tonight.
tomorrow at 6 o'clock.
Well,
I
then
have
you
time.
better-
I have time. I don't have to be there till 6 o'clock.
Okay, well, I got more time than you. I'm retired.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Hey, motion to adjourn, seconded. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I.
Motion approved. We are adjourned at 7:45.